So I had a question from a Patreon member that patronizes me. Is that how you say that? I don't know. Anyway, I thought I'd respond about weightlifting, the sport of Olympic-style weightlifting. I'm coaching weightlifting. You can see the background over here, some stuff. I'm coaching weightlifting since first real meet coaching since 2012. I'm coaching weightlifting now for, I don't know, however old I am. No, not that long, but a long time. So the question was, though, about weightlifting. I've been hesitant, by the way, Jason Miller here, PhD, Dr. Miller, if you want to go that route. I've hesitated to put any weightlifting videos out just because there's a lot of weightlifting videos out, and there's a lot of very capable weightlifting coaches, obviously. Catalyst being one of them. I think Greg steals a lot. I don't know Coach Everett. Maybe I should say Coach Everett. Greg sounds like I know him. I've never met Coach Everett. He steals my stuff, though, I'm pretty sure. Every time he comes out with something, it's been something I've been thinking, no, he doesn't steal anything. But a great resource, his book, highly recommended. There's a lot of great coaches out there who have great teaching methods, and I've always, again, hesitated to get out in there just because it's so saturated. But I thought I'd release a video, what the heck, and talk about weightlifting. And this individual asked me about some problems they were having with their technique, and so I'm going to try to put some videos together. I love the sport. If I could coach weightlifting for a living, I love being a professor, but if I could make a living weightlifting coaching, I would do it. It's that something that I enjoy that much. Fell in love with the sport when I was a football player. I never really got to. It was very small back, and this is let's just say it was a while ago. It was a smaller sport. Didn't really understand it. Never really heard of it. I was obsessed with college football at the time, anyway, so it didn't matter. But as I got into grad school and got older, I've obviously loved the barbell, working with the barbell, strength training, strength coach, etc. I saw the sport and caught the beginning of the wave of the sport in 2012. I remember I have video, it's on the internet, of YouTube, on the old tube of 2012 University Nationals, and you wouldn't be able to recognize that type of meet today. I remember the national meet that year. You had like Kane Wilkes hitting gigantic numbers in a gymnasium with a piece of plywood on the floor. I mean, that was big nationals, right? That was USA Nationals, and under the current leadership, which has done a great job of promoting the sport. It is what it is. If you haven't had a chance to go to United States weightlifting meet, try and go see it. It's a great production. It's done well. Athletes really enjoy it. It's great for the sport. So anyway, all that said, I've been around doing this a while, and I thought I'd put together a technique video series. I'm going to start with what I think is the most important part of weightlifting. Most lifts are missed right off the floor. And most, as somebody's experienced, I would say 85% off the floor. And off the floor, though, encapsulates a lot of things. It encapsulates positioning, grip, elbow alignment, obviously how you align your scaps, etc. And so I'm going to start off with what I think are the three main positions. A lot of coaches use this. I first saw this with Glenn Penlay many years ago, rest in peace. And I've kind of taken it and just adapted it. And I'm going to go over each one of the important steps. If you can master these three positions alone, especially the first two, it's going to go a long ways to producing better weightlifting performance. Certainly, this first video is not going to go all the way to the floor, or even around the knee. The knee, in our research literature and just in weightlifting, the knee is where a lot of bad things happen in terms of being knocked out of position or weakness. It's the point where the bar is the furthest away from me. That's why you see weightlifters that are built in such a way they have short legs or short femurs, the upper leg bone, and the bar's closer to them naturally. If they have long torsos, that they can get over the bar, even better. So you're over the bar without having to go over the bar. The worst build you could have is a short torso and long legs, because now you have to lean over the bar, and so you don't have as much leverage there, and getting the bar around the knee can be more challenging. It doesn't mean that weightlifter can't be successful. It's just that person may have to do more lower back work to maintenance their lower back, because it's going to get abused more potentially. So anyway, I'll get into the off the floor, what some people call the first pull, and some people double knee bend, scoop, whatever. I'm a lot of coaches, I don't really focus on teaching the double knee bend. If you just learn how to lift properly, the double knee bend happens by itself. But then above the knee is where all the magic happens, is where we really get the bar moving. And especially in the snatch is where you're going to generate most of the bar height. All right, so I'm going to go over these positions that are critical to start with. I will mention one quick other thing is grip. A regular grip here, or traditional grip, is, thumb over, okay? A hook grip is thumb buried, and it depends how big your thumb is, how buried your thumb gets. My fingernails are dirty, sorry, I've been digging in the garden. How buried your thumb gets. When you're learning, I would advise taking your thumb out every once in a while, or you tend to see is to crush it because you're concentrating so much. It'll take some while to get used to it, but you'll find that grip. I found this interesting. My son was born, right? And my daughter is, that's how they grip. That's how a baby grips, right? We're hardwired that way. That's a better grip. Just don't punch anybody in the face this way. All right. That's what I always tell people. That's a bad thing to do. So if you have in the habit of punching people in the face, don't do this. Otherwise, bury the thumb. You'll grab your coffee cup that way. I drive my car that way if I'm not careful. I mean, it just becomes comfortable after a while. You may, this is later on down the line, but you may want to tape the thumb. You get more grip. If you have a smaller thumb, a shorter thumb, you may want to tape it to get more traction on it, so to speak. You're going to have to mess around with that if you have small hands. If this is also, if you're a woman, then using a women's bar might be much helpful. If you're a young person, a kid, again, using the women's bar, which has a smaller diameter, is going to be very helpful. Grip is important. If you can't grip the bar, you can't pull it. If you don't feel comfortable gripping the bar to pull it, then you're not going to be able to, there's no way you're throwing it over your head or putting it on the shoulder. Okay? All right. So let's look at the beginnings of successful setup. And I always start with the snatch because, the old saying is you dodge a wrench, you dodge a ball. I'm sure that was in some philosophy book somewhere. But if you learn how to snatch, the clean is much easier to learn than the other way, my experience. Snatch is one of the most powerful movements we have with the barbell. So learning how to move it properly will transfer really well to the clean. And I usually that's been successful for me over the years, is moving from the snatch to the clean, and the jerk's kind of its own beast. Okay, so I'm going to start with the snatch, and these positions are going to be the same, whether it's a clean or the snatch. And I'll talk a little about grip width and things like that. Oh, here I am watching myself lift weights. Okay, here we go. So this just, again, some of the setup cues that I use. Hopefully make this less clunky as possible. And so I use some, when I teach or when I coach, I try to use cues that are easy to remember, that, I'm going to move myself over here, that encapsulate a lot of different movements. I use a more external cue. So I don't say, I'm going to use those words here as I explain it to you, but I don't tell an athlete elbows out, knuckles down. That, even though that's fine. I found that silly kind of words are helpful. Okay, because athletes remember them. Then it has a sequence. So, for example, this first movement here I call gorilla arms. So, have you ever seen a gorilla walking around the zoo? I'm assuming not all of them. But I'm going to make I'm dancing around here. So grill arm. So, and this is with this stick here, just a PVC pipe. You can do this with a barbell. The expectation is when you actually lift, your wrists are not going to look like this. But if you set the knuckle down, the whole idea is that we're trying to keep the bar close. This is a basic torque equation, right? Here's the axis of rotation. Here's the external force. And this is the moment arm. So the longer that moment is, the harder it is for the hip. The hip has to work harder over the bar. That's why one lift can feel great, and the exact same load can feel like 1,000 pounds the next one, right? Well, it'll feel like 10 pounds, and it feels like 1,000. It depends on how. That's when we say keep the bar close, right? You hear this a lot. Keep the bar close. Well, how do you do that, right? That's what I always tell my students and athletes. Yelling somebody, keep the bar close. Well, how, right? This is one of the ways that you do that. Number one, by curling the wrist here, going into wrist flexion. If you want to get fancy. You're moving the stick closer, moving the bar close to the hip. And that also tells your brain, look, the tendency is when people start lifting is they hold the bar like that to wrist extension, right? And so training the brain that, no, I want the bar like this. I want the bar close is what's critical. Part of gorilla arms is also then, not just putting the knuckles down, it's like a gorilla walking around on its knuckles, okay? Watch some nature videos if you need some help with that. Is I turn the elbows out, okay? And I'm going to give you a different view here, right? From the side is the elbows. If I could draw an arrow here, will be pointed out. And we're not gonna go to the pole in this video, but the reason that this is so important is that however you align the elbows is the direction in which they will break. And so if they break, it's just another angle here. If they break, if you have the elbow back, that means the stick, the bar in this case, the bar is going to come out. It's going to swing. If the elbow is out when it breaks, everything is going to go vertical. And that's what we want. When everything goes this way, okay, yes, the bar is going to have a notch, it's kind of a subtle S to it and so on and so forth. But in basic sense, we want the bar to go that way. And so if the elbow is out, okay, in those gorilla arm, that means that the elbow will break up. And I'll show that in the next couple videos. The next one is bro lats, and I make fun of the bros here, okay? And if you've seen the bros walk around the gym, right, and some of them don't have lats, some do, but, right, the bros walk around like that, okay? I'm a bro. I may walk around like that occasionally. My wife says I do. We call them peacock feathers. I put out the peacock feathers. But when you do bro lats, there's a lot of cues associated with this when we get to the floor. Keep your chest up. I've used the cue fight for your logo, right? So not every shirt, but shirts have logos on them. So I want to see the logo the whole time. Fight for your logo. Keep your logo up the whole time. I used that for a while. It didn't generate the kind of, it resonated with some, but not all. And so I changed it to bro lats. And the whole point of the bro lat is that you pull the shoulder blades down into your back pockets. Okay. It's not just squeezing the shoulder blades. It looks like I am here in the picture, but I'm not. I'm pulling the shoulder blades down and back. I'll move one step too far here. So here's me before. That's just gorilla arms. And now I'm going to pull my shoulders down and back and see what that does to my chest. It raises my chest up, raises my logo up. And this will be important when we get to the floor of holding this position. This is what protects the spine. Now, one of the things to really work through here is as you go into bro lats is don't let the elbow roll. You can see mine rolled back a little bit, okay? And that's the trick. All right, if I do this fast enough, that's like a pretty cool TikTok video, all right? But if you pull this, when you pull the shoulders down and back, bro lats, okay? And remember, I always say lats are the way to protect your back when you're pulling bars off the floor. It's deadlift or weightlifting. Lats protect the back because if your lats are engaged, you're not going to have that flexion, all right? Now, if you walk around like this all the time, you can put some significant stress on your facet joints, but the point is that when we're lifting bars off the floor, having those lats is important. Now, when I pull back, though, I don't want the elbows to rotate back. I don't want the elbow, so if I have my elbow engaged here, when I pull into bro lats, I don't want the elbow to roll backwards because now what we just talked about is the elbow will break backwards and the bar is going to loop. Okay, so that's the trick here. And this just takes practice, as you go into bro lats, don't lose your gorilla arms. Okay, so gorilla arms, you can see here, got that bend. Bro lats, keep the elbow pointed out. Okay, keeping the elbow pointed out. All right, I'm trying to show that here. Now, the next one is big fat horse. Okay, and what I mean by that is you sit on the big fat horse. You sit straight down. Notice I sat. It's just a small knee bend. There's no hip flexion. Okay, I'm just bending my knee. Another TikTok video. And just a knee bend here. A very small one. My weight's in the back of my foot. I'm going to back up here in a minute and talk about grip, etc. in a second. I got ahead of myself. Got excited. But the horse is fat, and it's fat, so we have to push our knees out. And the reason we want to start doing that is when I get to the floor, I'm going to make a video from the floor, you'll see that if you keep your knees forward, they push the knees far over the bar, and that means those knees have to get out of the way. By having the legs go into a bow-legged kind of stance, your legs actually get shorter. There's less bars. If you watch some of the big lifters from China in particular, they really exaggerate these postures. That's just part of their technique training to push the knees out, and that's in general. Not all. I've seen a fraction of lifters that don't push their knees out, and they do fine. It just depends on your build, of course, and how strong you are at a certain position. Some people, their hip alignment is better to have their knees straight, but for the most part, pushing these out, and eventually those knees will be just touching just barely the inside. Again, depends on the build. Barely the inside of the arm when we get all the way to the floor. But the reason we do the big fat horse is, again, to get that idea of having that wider knee, it's not even externally rotated. It's called Varus, but I don't want to get on that. It's bow-legged. Think of just bow-legged structure. And this is why I use big fat horse. You sit on the horse, it's fat, so you got to push your knees open. My balance, again, is the back of my foot. I don't like the word heel. Heel tends to push people till they're stumbling backwards. I like back of the foot. And they say, what's the difference? So it's a big difference, okay? Because we don't want people stumbling backwards. You don't want to stumble backwards when you're trying to pull a bar. You want to be in the back of your foot, okay? So taken together then, gorilla, bro, big fat horse. Okay, and this position altogether is the pocket. I call this pocket. Some people call it the power position. You can have a little bit more of a rotated forward. Some people, I call that more of the power position. Mid thigh area, you know, it starts to get into. Some people start there. I like the pocket, and this I got this mostly from Penlay, but I like this position because this is the last position. I like to teach this position because this is the last position before we launch. Right. So no matter what happens, you know, wherever you start, above the knee, below the knee, or the floor, this should be the last position that you have before you launch this bar. Now, of course, we'll be carrying some momentum in here and so on and so forth, but you have to get this stick to the hip. Okay, you have to hit this position. You have to if you're going to be efficient. If this bar is off the hip, you're not going to be efficient. You're going to be pulling with your arms. Okay, so you have to get back to this position. I'll say it one more time. You have to get back to this position. I like this as a lift. I like doing pocket snatches. It exposes balance. It exposes bad pulling technique. If somebody is pushing the bar with their hips, they're going to hop forward. You put a line on the floor, they'll hop off over that line. Right? This is a great drill just to snatch out of. You can power it or go full snatch. It's going to teach you a lot about how your balance is, if your pull is efficient, if you're extending through the knee and hip, or you're swinging the bar, or whatever it may be. This will expose that. I have some great video of an athlete I coached many years ago. His first day, you know, we did tons of snatches pocket snatches because his balance was so bad. He was a great athlete. He started snatching 80 kilos, and by the last time he competed, he snatched 165 kilos. So I'd say that's pretty good, right? And a lot of it was a pocket snatch, right? It helped him regain his balance. It straightened up his pull. He became incredibly efficient. He's very smooth with his pull because of this. I'm not saying that's happened for everybody. I'm just saying it's a useful drill. Okay, so that's the beginnings. Now, let me back up just for a second. I got ahead of myself. Okay, how do you know where to put your hands? All right, grip. So it's hard to see in this picture here. I should have did a better job of this, but this bar is right in front of the front of my hips. The ASIS if you're going to get fancy, but where your hips protrude out front. Okay, now there's a couple ways to set this. You can put the stick in the crease of your legs and bend over, like you're kind of bending over, pick something, and the stick's in your crease of your legs, right? And then elongate your elbows off to the side, okay? Then you can do a secondary check where you lift the knee up out of this position, and if the bar rolls down your thigh, then your grip's too narrow. If the bar doesn't touch your thigh at all, then your grip's too wide. So you'll find that sweet spot, okay? Sometimes you hit the buzzer, right? And especially in the snatch, you'll hit your hip and it'll light you up. That's as if it usually doesn't do that. It's a clear indicator that, you know, you changed your grip at some point along the movement path. But to start, put the stick or the bar in front of your hips. Make sure your arms are elongated, okay? There's all these intricate, like, measure this and do that and the other thing. Just if you're not sure, you know, take the stick, and if I was on the side view here, I just squat down with it, leave the stick in my hips, right? And if you've seen weightlifters warm up, you see them put the bars in the crease of their hips a lot and just sit there and squat with it. And then just straighten your arms out from there, and there's your grip. And then just make note of where that is. Now, for a lot of people, especially female athletes or those just with small wrists, that initial grip may be too wide. You find they have a lot of wrist pain, okay? And so initially, move your hands in a finger width on each side. See if that feels okay. It won't be optimal in terms of where the bar is contacting you. You might end up contacting more on the thigh, and so you're gonna have to pull longer. You have to lean back a little bit more when you pull in order to compensate for that. But that sometimes when you're starting isn't a bad thing. And then as your wrists feel better and you get stronger, and your mobility issues or whatever it is, that strength or mobility or both in the wrist, then you can move out to that optimal grip. One thing I will say about wrists, again, this is why I don't want to do weightlifting videos, because I can go down rabbit holes, is don't work through them. Don't work through wrist pain. That's one joint, you know, like, oh, my knee's a little sore, I get warmed up, I'm fine. You know, usually wrists don't get fine, right? Have an adequate warm up, and there's some great videos out there. Maybe I'll put one out too. But when wrists are cranky, don't crank on them. If you snatch more than twice a week, you know, and you do a lot of overhead squatting, be very careful with that. That'll light wrists up pretty quick. Okay, it's a lot of compression on a wrist. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. So just in review, okay, if you put it all together here, gorilla arm, elbows out, knuckles down. Bro lats. Okay, pull the shoulder blades down and back. Put them in your back pockets. All right. As you do it, the key here, and I didn't do it as good as I should have, is because I'm not a good weightlifter anymore. That's why I coach. Is push the elbows, or the elbows should maintain their pointed out to posture. They're going to roll back a little bit. The tighter your shoulders are, the harder this is. That's why I have a hard time with it. But keep your elbows pointed out, okay? Because remember, we want those elbows to break up, and that'll make sense in the next video, okay? And then big fat horse, just a small knee bend, okay? Flare the knees as you bend. Balance should be in the back of the foot. Nice and tall posture, okay? This is going to be the launch point eventually when you put the whole lift together. Pocket snatching is also just a great drill in general. Okay, I hope you find that helpful to start. Do 20. When somebody walks in the gym, I've had some sweaty people that were pretty fit just doing these drills because they're concentrating so much. You should be able to do 25 of these in a row without any sort of break, like meaning you don't have a breakdown. The biggest error I see when people start this is they start squatting deeper and deeper and deeper. They'll start leaning forward. The big fat horse gets sloppy, right? And instead of being precise with this final posture, again, things get a little bit sloppy, and that's don't let yourself get away with that. Film yourself if you need to, have somebody watch you, because if you get sloppy here, you're always going to be sloppy, and you don't want to mess this up. You don't want to mess up this bar mesh relationship. You don't want to mess up getting to the pocket position, because then you'll be fixing it forever when you start doing things that are more dynamic. Okay, do it right from the start, and it'll save you some heartache later. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel. Be on the lookout for the next video in this series. I'll keep going through the steps till I get to the floor and doing some pulls, and then we'll look at clean and jerk as well. Subscribe to my channel. Did I say that? Subscribe to my channel. Be a sub. I'm not very good at the gram, the Insta faces and face the books, but I would love to see this channel get up to at least 1,000 subscribers. So be a part of that if you don't mind. Like this video if you do. All right, I think I'm repeating myself. See you in the next video.